is they loaded a fucking gun, or the gun was supposed to be unloaded, but they had a gun in his hand. They made him sober drive people home, but they had one other hazer in there holding a fucking gun to his face. And then they shot, they thought it wasn't loaded, and they did like a fake shot. They like fake clicked the gun towards the window to scare him, and a bullet went out and shot through his window. Nigga went to evil college. I went to the college for evil people. Black fraternities. I don't know what they want me to call it. So I feel like I'm not doing my due diligence by just calling them black fraternities, because they have a more formal name, but I can't remember it right now. But they're worse. And I know that they still do their hazing shit, and it's bad. Like ours, we never got hit or harmed or anything, but they got beat up. They would get their ass whooped. One of my homeboys, not to snitch or anything like that, but one of my homeboys, they beat the shit out of them with they wore socks. They had socks on their hands, and they would slap the shit out of them, and they would like give them like liver shots and hit them in the solar plexus and shit. It would make them crawl in sand with eggs in their mouth, and they make them crawl for like a half mile. And then at the end of it would be one of their other brothers or initiates, and they would put the egg, they would baby bird the egg into the other nigga's mouth, and then they would have to crawl another half mile back. And if they ever swallowed the egg, or if the egg yolk broke or something like that, they all got beat the shit out of. For us, the worst thing we ever had to do, not the worst thing we ever had to do, they pulled it back pretty far with us, because I just wasn't having it. They tried to make us do a lot of shit that I was like, dude, I'll just dip out. I don't care. I'll leave. I don't care. It's not that big a deal to me. What they tried to get us to do is they would take bottle caps, like beer bottle caps, and you would have to do bows and toes on them, and that's where you do a plank but with your elbow, and you'd put your elbow in the bottle cap, and that bitch would fucking dig in your elbow. But they didn't make us do it, because I was like, no. I literally was like, no, I'm not doing that. So we did regular bows and toes, which still hurts. Putting your fucking bone on like concrete floors and shit, that shit sucks. They digging in me. The worst thing they ever did, they made us listen to What's New. Here, I'll actually recreate the scene for you. So what they did is that they blindfolded us, so it was dark, and the song What's New Pussycat by Tom Jones. It's a terrible song. I fucking hate it. They put it in a round. A round means that multiple instances of the song are playing at once, but it was off beat. All three of them were off beat, and it was loud, bro. Loud as fuck. And they took baseball bats, and you couldn't hear it, but they would be right next to you, and they would swing the bat and clang it off the top of your head like this. Probably like this high above your head, around here. And they would, like, you'd be against the wall, so they would smack it against the wall. And they did that for like an hour and a half, bro. It's probably probably the most scared I've ever been in my entire life. Like I'll fully admit that it was probably the most afraid I've ever been. Cause I was like, what the fuck is this about? But this is what the song sounds like. What's new, pussycat? That activated my fight or flight. I'm not even bullshitting you. Just hearing the opening sound is making my adrenaline pump. What's new, pussy? Mind you, the entire time they're swinging baseball bats over your head, and it was that for an hour and a half. That was 45 seconds. I didn't even play it for a minute. Nah, no one ever got hit with the bat. It was like after a while, like I was having fucking, I don't know if I had hallucinations, but I was like, I remember there were a bunch of times where I would like act like shit didn't feel real, bro. Shit did not feel real. Couldn't like freak out. If you freaked out, like it happened a couple times, but they would like hold you. They would like hold you still. If it got too bad, I will give them credit. They did take you outside so you could like calm down, but then they would just put you back in there. Like one time they blindfold half of us, and then they tie the other half's hands around our back. You guys are gonna be like, this is some torture shit. They blindfold half of us, and then they tie the other half's hands around our back, and then in the dark with two dimly lit candles, they would throw out three 1,000-piece puzzles and mix them all together, and we had to finish just one of the puzzles, but the people whose hands were tied behind their back could only say things to the people that were blindfolded, and the people that were blindfolded had to feel around for pieces and put them where the person said to go. That's not as bad. Yeah, we almost got close to finishing it one time, and then they came in and broke it. It took us like 3 hours, and we were like pretty close. I would say we probably had like 600 pieces like filled in on one, and we managed to get all the pieces out of another, or of the other two, and then they came in and they broke it. And we didn't get to sleep that night because it would be on Sundays, and then you had class on Monday. And so we would go in at like 1, 2 a.m. and then we wouldn't leave the house until like 9 a.m. and then we had class. Or like whoever had the earliest class, that's when it was done. And like some people had 8 a.m. classes. So we would just not sleep. I think I remember every week's punishments. I think I do. And the funny thing is, and I've mentioned this before, and this is the part here's the kicker. Here's the fucking kicker. Here's the part that no one talks about. Here's the kicker for me specifically. Every year there are elections held on who is going to be doing the hazing. It's an official position in the fraternity. It's called the pledge educator or whatever the fuck. It's different for every single fraternity. They have a different name. And that just means who's doing the hazing and teaching the pledges everything they need to know about the history of the fraternity. The one that we got my year, everyone was afraid because our guy was the scariest guy. I remember when we like signed our pledgeship to them, when we found out who our pledge educator was, I can't remember the name of it. Everyone was like, "Oh, you guys are fucked because you got a bad one. This guy is an asshole. He is mean. He does shit to make you suffer for real." And he ended up murdering somebody in real life and is in jail for manslaughter. It was his best friend. It was on accident, but he was drunk driving and he hit somebody. He crossed a median and hit somebody on the highway with his car, and his friend burned to death in his car. 2 of them killed somebody because that was one of the murderers. We had a second murderer who I was very good friends with. He got crazy high on drugs and stabbed his girlfriend at the time 42 times. Then he tried to light himself on fire at a gas station. Then they found him and took him to jail. Nigga went to evil college. I went to the college for evil people. Like how he remembers it is he did a bunch of drugs, got angry, and then the next thing he remembers is waking up in her house with like blood everywhere. And then he realized he killed her. And so then he called the police, or he called her dad or the police or something to say what happened. But then he fled the scene, went to a gas station, bought gas, and then tried to light himself on fire. And as he was like trying to light himself on fire, the police showed up. And I'm like in pictures with this man. I remember playing basketball with this man. I remember he was one of the 3 black people in our fraternity. I literally joined a frat because I just wanted to know what that kind of life was like. That was like verbatim why I joined. They're like, "Why did you even join that?" I was like, because I know I could, and I want to see like how different my life is like to people like you. And they fucked with me. But other than that, fuck no. Like, did I, in hindsight, should I have just left? I tried to leave like 6 times, and every single time they were like, "Tevin, bro, I was the president of our class. So I was the most in charge of like, I had to rally everybody every time because I knew the most. And I actually like worked really hard at being a good fraternity member. So they wanted me to stay really badly. And they're like, "Bro, please stay here. Like, we really like you." And I'm like, "You niggas suck. Get me out of here." But I stuck through it. That almost fucking killed me. They gave me like, I got a concussion, and then they hit me in the head hard like 4 different times in a week. And I'm surprised I didn't get like brain damage. I was really scared about that. It took me like 2 weeks. It took me like 2 weeks to like recover. And I was like, I couldn't like see light. It was bad, bro. When I was in college, a freshman died after getting hazed, and my college shut down all frats for 4 years. Same thing almost happened to us. A kid died, but he came back to life. And that fraternity, like that and like 4 other fraternities got shut down for 5 years. By my last semester, there were a bunch of, I would say there's like anywhere from 12 to 20 fraternities. When I left, there were like 8. Was he Jesus? No, the EMT brought him back to life. He drank too much and he was dead for like two or 3 minutes, which is like really close to as long as you could actually be dead. There were a lot of deaths at the time. I remember a friend of mine was at Oklahoma State, and they got all their fraternity shut down because one of their hazing activities, which we never had to do, is they loaded a fucking gun, or the gun was supposed to be unloaded, but they had a gun in his hand. They made him sober drive people home, but they had one other hazer in there holding a fucking gun to his face, and then they shot. They thought it wasn't loaded, and they did like a fake shot. They like fake clicked the gun towards the window to scare him, and a bullet went out and shot through his window. And he was like, oh shit. They were like, oh shit. And then they obviously let him go. That also reminds me of another fraternity story. This one is crazy. You ready for this one? Hold on. There was this one time. One of the fraternity members was having a birthday. Or it was his birthday, and he was having a birthday party. So he called me. I was on sober driving duty. Once a weekend, for Fridays and Saturdays, 2 pledges have to sober drive everyone in the fraternity home. If they need a ride or if they need somebody picked up, you do it. You have a shift of like from 9 to 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So you have to drive. All right. So I'm driving this particular weekend, and I need to preface this story by saying the girl that I was just seeing, I had broken up with. Like, it had just ended, right? I'm talking like that same week. I'm prefacing the story so you'll understand later. Anyway, I'm picking up people, whatever. Everyone's going to this guy's birthday. And then he texts me, the guy whose birthday it is, and he said, hey, I have some friends coming in who are not in the fraternity. Give them a ride wherever. I said, okay. The only rule of the pledge driving is you do not have to pick up any man that is not in your fraternity. For women, you have to drive them home, or you have to drive them wherever regardless, for women. But any man that is not in the fraternity, you do not have to drive them, no matter what anybody else says. He said they're not in the fraternity, but it's his birthday, so I'm like, whatever. But then I text our president, and I'm like, hey, do I have to give these guys rides because he said so? And he's like, no, you shouldn't be giving them rides. They're not in the fraternity. So then I go and pick this guy up, and he's like, oh, I'm an honorary member of your fraternity. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes it way easier. So now I'll just take you wherever. It's not a big deal. And this guy says, okay, take me to this bar. So I drop him off at the bar, and I go on about my business. I'm giving people rides, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. 1 o'clock hits. Last call is at 2. I have to drive someone really, really far away to their house from the bars. So that takes me like 40 minutes, and I'm getting spam called from this number I don't recognize. And I'm like, what the fuck? I finally answer it, and I'm like, yo, what's up? And I'm getting spam called, and then I pick it up, and it's the guy, but he's drunk. And he's like, hey, I need you to pick me up. I'm at the same bar you dropped me off at. I said, okay, I'm coming. I go and I pick him up, and bro says, hey, I'm going to this girl's house. She's a friend of mine. He said, hey, I'm going to this girl's house. It's a friend of mine. He calls the girl, and it was my ex-girlfriend, the girl that I was just talking to. Could not believe it. Now, the preface to this is that I was a freshman and she was a junior, and this guy must have been 2 years out of school. So it was like, I'm a freshman, she's a junior, but when she was a freshman, he was a junior kind of situation. So he's quite a bit older than me, and he was a Marine. He's in the Marine or the Army, one of the two. And he's a big dude. And mind you, back in the day, I was very small. He's probably like 6'1", 6'2", pretty military-esque build, white dude. So he's like, hey, I'm going to this address. I already know the address, but I have to lie like I don't, because I don't want to know what'll happen. So he's like, stop at the gas station first. And crazy enough, he bought me liquor. He bought me he's like, what kind of liquor do you like? And I was like, oh, I like honey whiskey, Jack Daniel's honey whiskey. He's like, I'm gonna go get you one. Hold on. So then I come back, or he goes to the gas station, buys me a whole handle, or a fifth, not a handle. He buys me a fifth. I'm like, oh, thanks, man. But I'm still kind of like, this is fucking weird. I just stopped talking to this girl. Was she cheating on me with this dude? So I'm driving over there, and he's like trying to give me the map of it, and he's like, oh, I think we missed a turn. And I go, no, we don't. I know where I'm going. And then he goes, how do you know where we're going? And I'm like, I'm like, I've been over here. One of my friends lives in these apartments. I was sweating bullets, dog. So I'm sweating bullets, and I'm like, my friend lives over here. Anyway, I swing him in there, and I drop him off. And as he's getting out of the car, I'm getting spammed with calls and texts because it's almost 2 a.m., which means everybody's coming home, which means I need to pick up a bunch of people really fast. So I'm like, I gotta go. I can't wait to see if you make it in the apartment or whatever. He's like, oh, it'll be fine, whatever. And I'm like, all right, cool. I drive out, and then another guy calls me. His name's Mike. Mike calls me, and he's like, hey, I need picked up from this bar, and I'm going to this house. It was so fucking far. I was like, this is the last ride I can do for the night, because that shit's gonna take an hour. Like, to get to the bar would be like 15 minutes, and you live 45 minutes away. You live on the other side of the city. So I tell everybody else that's calling me, I was like, hey, Mike just called me. He's trying to get me to go home. It's gonna take 45 minutes. I cannot do this because it'll be 2:45, 3 a.m. when I drop him off. I'm not taking any more rides. Call the other guy. And so everybody's like, okay, like, we understand. It's all good. So I pick him up, and as I'm picking up Mike, we're heading back. We're probably like 20 minutes into driving him home, and I get a call from my ex-girlfriend, or the girl I was talking to at the time. We weren't like officially dating, but we'd been talking for several months. She calls me a bunch, and at first I'm ignoring it because it's like, it's not that important. But then she sends me like 8 texts in a row, and I can't even read them. But she calls me again, and I'm like, something, like, you can clearly tell something's like not right. So I'm in the middle of driving him. I'm like halfway to Mike's house. He's in the car with me, and she's calling me, and I pick up the phone. I'm like, hello, and she is crying, like bawling, like hysterically, like screaming, crying. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And she was like, why did you bring him here? Why did you bring him here? And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And she was like, the guy. Why did you bring that guy here? And I'm like, what? And she was like, he's breaking everything. And in the background, I wasn't listening, but you can hear him throwing shit. Just fucking, there's like, you can hear shit clanging and banging. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I was like, hold on. I'll be right there. Like, I'm going to drive right over there. So I told Mikey, or not Mikey, Mike. I told Mike, I was like, hey, full stop, I can't take you home. This girl that I used to talk to is being harassed by the dude I just brought over there. And he's like, what dude you just brought over there? And I was like, so-and-so, our boy's friend. And he was like, you should not be taking anybody anywhere that's not in our fraternity. And I was like, that's what he said. He was an honorary teak. And he was like, I know him. He's not no fucking honorary teak. And I was like, oh shit. He's like, don't worry about it. Let's just go over there. So then we go over there, and she's outside of the apartment in the parking lot just crying. And I get there, and she's like, get him the fuck out of here. Get him the fuck out of here. And I'm like, hold on. I was like, Mike, can you stay with him? All right, can you stay with her? I'm going to go up there. And he's like, yeah, sure. So I go up there, and like, now everyone in my fraternity is calling me. They're like, are you safe? Do we need to call the cops? What is going on? I was like, let me handle it. I have no idea what's going on, because I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get my ass whooped, or I don't want to get hazed for doing the wrong thing, because, like, you know what I mean? Like, I was scared of my fraternity at this point. So I'm like, let me handle this quietly so I don't have to deal with this shit. So I get up there, and everything's flipped over. TV's broken. Bunch of fucking kitchen utensils all over the floor and shit. The coffee table's flipped over. The only thing that's perfectly fine is the couch, and he's sitting in it. And he's just sitting there, like, brooding, like eyes forward, sitting there. And I'm like, hey man, what the fuck is going on? We gotta go. Like, it's time to go home. And he's like, no. He was like, oh, she didn't want to mention to me that she had a little boyfriend this whole time. And I was like, I thought he was talking about me. And I was like, gulp, gulp. Turns out, on some trapped in the closet shit, she did have another boyfriend, or was going out on a date with another dude within the week that had passed. She had already started seeing another guy, and this guy shows up. So now it's the three of us in this room, and he knows who I am, and now I know who he is. His name was Peter. I said Peter. He said Tevin. And I was like, he's sitting here pissed off at me because he thinks that I just threw this fucking gorilla into her apartment when I didn't know fucking anything. And I'm like, and I'm trying to get this fucking gorilla out. And so I'm trying to explain. I'm like, dude, help me get him out. You will never see me again. I don't know what's going on. And here's the thing that I need to mention, because some of you guys are like, oh, she deserved it. She didn't even know he was the Marine guy was coming at all. He just said he was in town when he was on the phone. I wasn't paying attention. She didn't know. She didn't even know he was there in her house. So when she got there and she told him like, hey, what are you doing here? Like, I have a whole ass boyfriend right now. Like, it's nice that you visited, but like, there's nothing for you here. He flipped out. He had a key and shit. I don't know how he got in there. I don't know if the door was just unlocked or whatever. But when she got in there, he was there. Because she apparently was out. And had come back and he was just in the apartment waiting. And so I'm sitting there like, oh, fuck, dude. Now I'm tripping. Because, yeah, dude, it's bad. It's all bad. So I'm like, Peter, help me get this dude out. I don't know any of this situation. He just told me to drive here. I'm sober driving for my fraternity. And so I just drove him here because that's what I was told to do. He's trying to square up to me, but he was a little ass dude. So I was like, bro, me and this Marine motherfucker can stomp you out. Like, I know you're in her house, but you're in an away game because me and him both don't like you. So you get your ass whooped. Help me so that you don't want to start this. I'm trying to tell you, I just want to get out of here. Yeah, and I'm tired. It's 3 a.m. flat now. It's flat out 3 a.m. So we're basically slowly, like literally like how you caress an animal or coax an animal out to like capture it. We slowly are like, hey man, it's really late. You're missing your friend's birthday. You need to go home. And he's like, yeah, I do need to go home. And it's like, yeah, you do need to go home. I'm sober. I have a ride for you. We can stop and get something to eat. And he's like, oh yeah, I do need something to eat. And then we get angry again. He's like, oh yeah, but I was supposed to visit her. And we're like, no. You know, it's just, hey, we got to get out of here. And eventually we get him out after a bunch of fucking fuss. And I'm like, hey, I'm not even going to talk to you about this. You're just never going to see me again. I don't want to deal with any of this. I don't want to deal with Peter. Tell Peter I'm sorry. I don't know the situation. You didn't know the situation. We just let a bull loose in a china shop and I'm sorry. I'm not paying for the damages though. You're going to have to talk to bro when he is sober. So we get him in the car and we're driving back to my friend's birthday. The fraternity member's birthday. We were taking him back to his house because they were all staying there. On the way back, Mike was not very happy that he threatened a woman. So he's in the car ripping his ass up. Oh, you want to treat women like shit. You want to treat women properly like shit, huh? Is that how a military man works? Huh? Is that how a man in the army or fucking Marine? I can't remember what it was. He's like, is that how a Marine acts? Huh? He's like, I have family in the military, you motherfucker. Like, how dare you treat them? How dare you treat that title with dishonor? And he's like, yeah, and you're not no fucking honorable teak either. I need you to understand that Mike is like 5'8". So if we fight, I gotta jump. I also have to jump in. And the whole time and the whole time the other Marine is getting amped up. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's like, you want me to show you how a Marine gets? He's like, oh, you want me to show you how a Marine acts? You want me to show you how a Marine acts? And he's like, yeah, show me how a Marine acts, motherfucker. He's like, we can do this shit in the car right now. I said, no, we cannot do the shit in the car right now, nigga. I'm a pledge, and this shit will go bad. This shit will go real bad. He's like, yeah. You want to go? And I'm like, oh my God, bro. And like, we're so close to the house. I'm getting calls from the fraternity is still calling me like crazy. We get to the house and I'm like, get the fuck out. Get out. I was like, y'all want to fight? Get out. Thankfully, all the other people that were there for the homeboy's birthday, they come in and just yank him out the car super fast. Like as soon as we get there, they just go like snatch his ass up, because it's like 4 other dudes and like 2 girls. And they're like, we are so sorry. We're so sorry. And Mike is still, he's like, bitch ass. He didn't say bitch ass nigga. That's just me externalizing because he's white. He's like, bitch ass boy. Like, well, I'll fuck you up. You're lucky that your friends are here. You treat people like shit, you disrespectful ass motherfucker. You gotta apologize to my friend. You gotta apologize. The whole time I'm like, please let me take you home and go the fuck home, dude. Please let me take you home and go the fuck home. And his friends are like, we're so sorry. Like, please, like, we're so sorry. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. Let me just go home. It's like 4 in the morning now. It's like, please let me go home. We start driving. You think it'd be over. So we start driving and the adrenaline has worn off and now we're all chilling. And me and Mike are in the car like laughing. We're like, whoo. And he's like, well, we're brothers forever now because we had to go through that shit. And I was like, yeah, man, we are brothers forever. And he's like, yeah, man, it's whatever. Woo woo! Fucking police lights behind me as I'm driving back. We're on campus. I'm speeding through campus. I didn't realize we're on campus. I'm going 30 and a 20 because it's 20 on campus. So I look over my shoulder to see the lights and I'm like, okay, I got to pull over. I swear to God, all of this is true, by the way. I can call, I still know Mike. I can still call him right now and he would tell you the same shit that I'm telling you. I look over my shoulder and I'm like, okay, I got to pull over. They're going to understand that I'm just speeding. But there's a fucking median. It's a crosswalk. And there's this fucking little median in the middle. Because it's like a 4-lane road. Or not a 4-lane. I don't know how to fucking explain it, but there's multiple lanes because of how campus works. And there's a median in the middle that's like a stopping point so that people don't get hit by cars and shit, right? If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. The shit's on campus everywhere. Well, I fucking, as I'm going to pull over, I hit the median and my tire gets destroyed, bro. Just, this doesn't pop, explodes. The entire tire. The whole thing, from the bead to the actual tire itself, fucking explodes. The inner part, I can't remember what it's called, dents. It like hit the perfect fucking angle and I'm like, oh my fucking God. So I pull over. The cops pull up and they're like, hey, the rim, yes, the rim's like crunched in. I couldn't believe it. So I'm sitting there and the cop comes up to me. He's like, hey, we pulled you over because you were going 30 and a 20. We're just going to tell you to slow down. But are you fucking drunk? Because you just hit that median. I was like, no, I'm not drunk. I hit the median because I looked over my shoulder while I was pulling over because you guys had your lights on. And he's like, are you sure you're not drunk? And I'm like, yes, I'm actually literally in a fraternity trying to get drunk people home. And he's like, get out of the car. We're going to do a drunk test. And I was like, okay, but I don't have shoes on. I didn't have shoes on because I was wearing slides. I was wearing my I have these Jordan slides. I don't have them anymore, but I was like, I don't have my shoes on. I was like, let me grab my shoes. They were in the back seat. And he's like, don't reach for anything. Just get out of the car. It's okay that you don't have shoes on. I said, all right. I'll tell you why it's important that I didn't have shoes on here in a second. So we get out and the fucking road is cold. It's nighttime. You know, this is the fall, so it's starting to get cold. So he tells me to step in a line like this, foot over foot, and he also tells me to stand on one leg. Well, the motherfucking floor is cold, so I'm jittering. So I'm wobbling like this because my feet are cold. But so the whole time he's like, are you sure you're not drunk? You sure you're not drunk? I'm like, I'm doing the task. The fucking floor is just cold. Can I get my slides first? Can you just go in the back seat and get my slides so I can show you that it's just because I'm cold? And he's like, no, don't you worry about it. And then he had me do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1 shit. I don't know if you guys have ever had to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. I was like, I'm not drunk. I had a drop. So then eventually they're like, all right, you're not drunk, but now they looked at my car and they're like, you can't drive that anymore. And I was like, can I get it to a parking garage? He's like, no, you can't take it into a parking garage because you don't have a parking garage, like a voucher. You don't have the thing to park in the university parking garages. You have to leave the car here, on the sidewalk. They said you have until 9 a.m. tomorrow to come tow it and pick it up. Otherwise, it gets towed by the city, and it costs way more, and you'll have to. And if you don't pick it up, it'll go to auction. I said okay. And he said have a good night, and then they left me there. And then it's me and Mike, and I was like, well, Mike, we're probably like 5 or 10 minutes from his house driving, bro. And I didn't have a spare. It's 5-10 minutes driving, and I was like, I don't have a spare, I don't have anything, and no one's up because it's like 4:30 in the morning. And so he was like, I just have to walk. He's drunk, and I'm like, I don't know what else I can do for you. So he had to walk home, and guess fucking what? I had to walk home, and my shit was like 2 miles the other way. And I had to walk on the highway to do it, and that's how the story ended. I did get a spare the next day. I brought the spare over, changed the tire, and went home though, so that was fun. The great thing about it though, the funny thing about it was the next day, and I'm scared for my life about what's gonna happen with me in the fraternity. Every single person in the fraternity that was involved in that night apologized to me, which did not happen. And for like 2 weeks, they're basically here in the fraternity.